Hello, hello. How are we doing tonight, guys? I'm glad you're enjoying the music, Trix. It's a chill night. It's been a rough week for me, trading wise and otherwise as well. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm more in a chill vibe right now. First trade of my comeback? Fair enough. Got positive? There we go. Yeah, it's really hard sometimes to go on a losing streak, especially when you have an ego like mine. I like being right. I don't like making money. I don't care for making money, if I'm being honest now. I like being right. And being wrong a few times in a row is really fucking hard for me. So, whenever you're having those streaks, just remember that one or two wins just outweigh all of those losses. That's why I like the model so much, to be honest. And as soon as you get out of that losing streak, you tend to get a few more wins um, to bring that win rate back up. So, I mean, it's all about balance, right? But it's been a little bit of a harder week. At the beginning of the week, it was hard to be on side for me. Truth is, model wise, setups wise, it was all great. It was just really hard to understand. And for me, it was hard to execute on. But I mean, you can't only have good weeks, right? You got to have these rougher weeks. And I mean, it's the first week of the month of June. NFP week, it's been a while since I've seen an NFP week like that. I think it was actually the same week last year. Definitely going to have to look into that when I have some time. But outside of that, today was a pretty nice day, we could say, in terms of delivery. Um, but once you look, well, in terms of the higher time frame movement, more so, but once you look at the delivery, was a little bit harder still. So we'll look at the opportunities. I myself took I was going to say short, but I took a long later in the AM session, which we'll look at, and of course, any other opportunities. And I'll be open to questions along the way. From the higher time frame, right? What did we talk about during this monthly outlook, right? Which we also look at the current week. Well, expecting a possibility of a trending week, followed by a Thursday retracement, Friday continuation, right? This is something actually we talked about in Tuesday's PA review, I believe, right? So definitely a very nice movement in terms of the week. The only thing where I got a little more confused was after taking out previous week high here, I can just here let's utilize an opportunity to showcase the indicators, right? Right after taking out previous week high here, we had a huge rejection. So I was looking at this current range that we're trading within, and the only clear level we had for retracement was this level here in discount, even going down to a 4-hour time frame. And of course, you guys know I always refer to the same ranges. You had this, right? So of course, going down on the 4-hour here would have allowed you to be more precise, but you guys know me. The only time I go down a time frame is where I get my quarters out, and if my level, so my first discount and efficiency, is below the midpoint of the discount, right? So what I like to refer to, this is discount, this is deep discount. So if it is in deep discount, then I'll go to a lower time frame and establish a different level. But in this case, that was not how I intended to go about it. So I had some ideas to go short initially for the day, right, when I looked at it yesterday. But after seeing the overnight price action, which we'll look at here in a second, let's actually remove previous week high and low. After seeing this aggressive trending movement, and I flipped through a 4-hour chart and saw that we were in this higher time frame point of interest, then it took away any potential ideas that I had to go short. The only opportunities for me was to continue going long to previous day high. But as we see with ES here, previous day high was taken on this candle. Of course, we're looking at a 15-minute chart, so plus or minus 15 minutes. But right at this level, you took out previous day high. So now you could frame some retracement shorts. And on a day like NFP, where you have very high impact news that formed a large gap, this will always be a retracement objective for me. So very straightforward stuff in that regard. You had opportunities to go long until you no longer did, then retrace to this gap and then follow more opportunities to go long. terms of SMT, that was pretty much it. That was significant. As you can see here, we have the opening range high, which also formed some SMT, which we'll be able to look at here in a second. Right, going down to the 1 minute, I'm gonna bring all available breakers. Right, I like to do that whenever I'm backtesting or something. But this is where also I like to have a little bit of a cleaner setup. So I'll remove the line. I will remove deviations as well, just to have a slightly cleaner chart, right? But looking at this, we'll see any single breaker, right? I'll showcase the settings a little more. I'm just running default mode, so no filtering. 25 historical, which if you guys do have the indicator, it will display all available objects, and just running a very simple 9:30 to 4 p.m. filter. And I'm not removing them after invalidation. Can even remove the signals, but I like having my little triangles that tell me when the breaker was formed, because the breaker is not necessarily the candle with the swing low. Straightforward stuff. But right now we see any single breaker block that was formed between 9:30 and 4 p.m. And that's how I can establish my setup. So for example, right at the open, I was not interested in going short, right? I told you guys I was looking for longs. We can see here with a little more precision. Took ES 10 minutes to reach previous day high, which led to this SMT right here. But I was not interested to go short. I was interested to go long. I myself missed this trade this morning, but it was a very nice setup, very clear direction. Now, 3PD array stop loss rule would have brought your stop all the way down here, which is pretty sizable. Now, in cases like these, this is where I like to trail my stop to somewhere more aggressive, perhaps even down here, or I would allow for price to retrace into here, but not flip the 9:30 open. Is that a mechanical approach to price? No. So instead of expecting everyone to be able to do this within a short period of time, I prefer to look at the pessimistic outcome, which would have just been, hey, it's a loss. It happens. You get losses. This was the, I guess, this is the worst possible outcome from trading this movement. Of course, for me, if I see price return to my break even after being up a quite sizable amount, right? Up a little over 1R, see price return to break even, then price expands, invalidates this fair value gap, right? This bearish fair value gap. This is just a sign for me to go break even at this level, and this is a break even trade. I follow my rules. I understand that this would be a break even trade, but still, easier to consider it a loss just in general. Now, if you weren't in this setup, then you definitely had some opportunities after previous day high was taken to just simply go short, right? But if we look at the setups that were formed, it would have been a little bit of the same story. So 3PD array stop loss rule here, if you're entering on this bearish fair value gap, you have another fair value gap above, and you have the order block, so you'd put it at the swing high accompanying it. And in this case, it would have allowed for enough risk to reward. Of course, we have a clear objective here, which is just the current low of the New York session, right? You can call it opening range low. I like to look from, we'll bring it with the session ranges, and you guys will see right away, from 9:30 to 10:30. This is what I utilize as the opening range, and it formed a beautiful framework today. But in this case, it would have really just been a random swing low that offers enough risk to reward. And if we bring our standard deviations here, we'll see that we had great confluence to take profit, even a little bit earlier than that. But as you guys know, I don't look for take profits anywhere above 1.7. It is just not worth it in terms of my edge. And if you would have held past that, well, that's either a break even or a stop loss once again. So a lot of consolidation near the open. To me, I like to associate that to the fact that we did not retrace inside this fair value gap. Right? I've been pretty clear in the past about my NFP frameworks. I always look for a retracement to the fair value gap and then continuation on side. So for example, this is a bullish gap. I would look for a retracement to it and then a continuation to the upside. Pretty simple framework that works very, very well. Definitely worth backtesting now that we have the available data for it. Did that short on demo, market felt like it was being held today. Didn't like it. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Just high resistance. It needed to go down before going higher. Offered a lot of setups. This is the long that I personally took. I was looking at this, but once again, with your correct stop loss, which I believe would be down here. Let's actually look at it. You have your fair value gap that you're using to enter. You have this order block, it's swung low paired with it, and then you have the fair value gap below, just targeting opening range high, which of course also on the same candle formed SMT at those highs. I'll display them with ES, right? These are the opening range highs. Well, that gives you 1.7 straight. So for me, that was just a very clear trade. I was quite happy after seeing all of this consolidation to just be one and done. So I made money. This week, I am negative though. I had a very hard Monday, as you guys know. Tuesday, I failed to recoup those losses by mismanaging one of my trades. So it ends up being a minus 1.6% week, which is very tiny. I do have a high leverage. I'm not scared of risk, but it's still a rough one, and nobody likes being negative on the week. All in negative, first time I hear that. Yeah, well, human mistakes this week. That's the truth. The model doesn't have any issues. I did this week. So, yes, I am indeed human, just. Thank you. Um, but yeah, it was a little bit of a harder week for me. Felt offside, a lot of high resistance price movement, which, well, that's not what led to me making mistakes, but definitely going to be a nice reflection weekend to look back about what I could have done better, even though reviewing these with you guys tells me what I could have done better. But today, I'm quite happy with the performance. I personally had a tighter stop. Whenever I see price being so aggressive, consolidation, expansion, going back, consolidation, expansion leads to expansion. Whenever I see price being like that, I prefer to have a tighter stop and to be done for the day quicker. So what I do half risk, tighter stop. So instead of, for example, putting 1% risk on my account on this move, which is a pretty safe move, I'll risk 0.5 on my account on this move. Turns out I made the same amount of money in this case, right? Because this offers more R. But if I would have lost this move, I would have lost half. And since it flips a lot, I prefer to do that. Would you say the probability just wasn't on your side, or did you fuck up psychologically? It was pure human errors. So I messed up on Monday. I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't remember my mistakes. I like to forget them for the week and review them on the weekend, because if not, things like this week happen where I let my previous day's mistakes mess me up. So for example, Monday I just had a losing day, which is rare for Monday at NFP, but still does happen. And Tuesday, I should have made a lot of money getting it back. We had two beautiful, successful setups. I mean, they're all reviewed in the price action review from Tuesday if you want to check them out. But I mistraded them. I also discussed about that. I basically didn't allow for enough upside, so I had a small win instead of a huge win, which would have recouped my losses and more from Monday. Then going into Wednesday, I had a small winning day once again. I was still down about 1% for the week. And today I had one loss, one win, which ended me in barely profits, because this was a tiny win because it's 0.5% risk. So ending the week in a small loss, which, yeah, I mean, I don't like losing. Very clearly, I do not. But, I mean, it happens to all traders, I hope. But I don't know. I feel like mine are never aligned with what I see on social media. So sometimes that may be a little bit hard, because I see that I'm losing when everybody else is winning, and I'm actually winning when they're losing, which is quite weird, to be honest with you guys. All that to say, very rough trade to be in, but definitely great return, great result. And of course, that was my tighter stop, but a very good stop loss nonetheless below 1.7. Would have been a small winning trade with a partial at the opening range high, followed by a complete reversal that would have brought you break even right away on this level. Then, of course, this move to go lower, this was this high probability statistical framework that didn't give you an entry. It's really that simple, right? It did not allow for an entry, sadly. And I mean, after opening range low is met and the 15-minute gap that we were looking at, this is the NFP fair value gap, is met, then I would definitely look for longs. But the only problem, oh, there we go. The only problem with that is I didn't get a setup. So this is too far for me to even consider a unicorn on a day like this. Some days I'll offer I'll look for a little more, but generally I'm looking at about 12 handles at a maximum away from my gap. And this is a retracement that is too late. We already expanded past, we already hit what would have been my partial objective. If we did do any sort of bullish breaker block at this point, just earlier, I would have looked for a long for sure. But then, as you guys know, 11:30 is my hard stop for the AM session. I never looked to trade past 11:30, which meant that all this bullshit would have been easily avoided, and you would have gotten back to your charts here at 1:30. I like to use this filter. I might implement double sessions here so I never have to actually just change it. I can just have time filter 1, time filter 2. So I can look at 9:30 to 11:30 and then to 1:30, no, to 11:30 and then 1:30 to 4. But here what we can see are all the breaker blocks that were formed after 1:30, which is right here opening price. We actually opened very near the 9:30 a.m. level. So I was definitely looking for my initial framework of let's retrace to the gap and then continue higher. We actually went all the way back up to return to the current high of day. So you would have had a beautiful framework there as well. The only thing is I don't trade during lunch myself, so I would have needed to wait for this entry right here, which is the first available entry that came for me in this case. So it is related to this one. It is quite far away, but as you can see, is it smaller than, I mean, it's even smaller than 10 handles, which is an initial distance away to consider. The default on the indicator, I believe, is 15, right? It's used for NASDAQ. I generally like to use 15, but on less volatile days, like you can see, this whole movement here for, what is that, like 30 minutes is only 30 handles for the range. So quite a small, not volatile day in those cases. Even those 3 huge candles only total 36 points, which is not a very volatile day for NASDAQ. Of course, we did a lot of back and forth, so quite a large daily range from that point on. But on less volatile days, I'll look for 12 to 10 handles away. All that large explanation just to say that. Here, for this entry, you definitely have your fair value gap. You have the order block with the selling low. You then have the other order block right here. I would have definitely looked to place my stop at this level right here. To be honest, there's no reason for price to want to return lower. But let's be mechanical here. 3PD array stop loss rule brings your stop here. Now, of course, a great partial would have been lunch high to then look at a lunch framework that could offer shorts. But definitely other than this, it would be going all the way up for, wow, for a clean 3R. That's actually pretty cool. For a clean 3R just to the current high of day. So definitely a very nice trade. Where would I look to take profit? Well, when I don't have clear areas, I have a liquidity level here. Does it align with my standard deviations? No, not at all. Honestly, these standard deviations are way too small for me to consider anything from them. So it's going to be return based. So this is a random liquidity level, offers over 1.7, over or equal, of course. So this would be a great area to partial and then hold towards the current high of day. And on a Friday afternoon at 2:30, after we just took out the current high of day, to not to forget as well, with SMT, there's no reason for me to hold a runner here. That would just be very greedy. And as well, if you guys were bearish at this point, which I'm not gonna lie, I was not, even with the lunch framework, everything, there's just no way I would consider taking a trade this late into the Friday. Jordan, a student and friend, is actually loves taking lunch trades on a Friday. So right here, just for his sake, I'll showcase it right here at 2 p.m. straight. We took out the lunch high. You can see the 4-hour open here. It aligns beautifully with some ideas to look at the 4-hour candle from 2 p.m. to open into a high and then expand lower. We have the SMT here. It's important to remember with this level. So technically like this. So we have a very beautiful framework as long as it offers a short setup, right? So you would have seen this first initial setup before we even took out current high of day. It was still a valid trade, which would have lost, right? So quite definitely got invalidated, would have ended up in a loss. And then you would have had the next framework right here. I'm sorry, guys. I love this indicator. I don't have to think. I can just see it. And just, you know what, make it cleaner. After lunch high is taken, we're bearish. So let's only look at bearish gaps. Right here, very beautiful entry. You have inversion, fair value gap, order block, order block. So quite a tight stop loss there. That's probably a high R trade. But of course, we did not get all the way down to the lunch lows. Still, we're talking about Friday PM session. Best case scenario, well, not best case, I guess. If none of your objectives are met, you guys know me. I look at the 4 p.m. candle and I look at the opening price because it is exactly at 4 p.m. that I want to be out of that trade, which at that point in time on this position, you would have been up 5R, which is very, very good. As take profit, right? If we want to clear level, you guys know how I do things. I look at my 5-minute chart. I'll look at the range I'm looking to reverse, which is the lunch framework in this case. First, discount and efficiency. Look at this picture. Perfect. First, discount and efficiency is where I would look to take profit. We actually were pretty low resistance until getting there, which actually formed a unicorn with some breakers that are here. That is why you see this fair value gap drawn. Pretty cool. So very clear, partial, 4 p.m. close. You know, you could have held past it. It would have met, let's put the text at the bottom here. It would have met right here, just 18 minutes before the close. A little bit of consolidation and then continuation. As for me, with a tough week, I was quite happy to just call it a day with a small win. I do have a lot of reviewing to do this weekend, but I know my mistakes. I know why they happened, and I know how to fix them. It's called sleep. More sleep so I can be sharp on my charts. Very straightforward once you have a little more experience in the markets. It's no longer about fixing mistakes. It's about removing the cause of those mistakes, which actually fixes them. That made no sense, but I hope you guys understand what I was trying to say there. Definitely some very nice setups, right? As I said, a harder week for me execution-wise, but even on a high resistance day like this, where price has a little bit of a harder time being one-sided, you do have plenty of high probability opportunities, even sticking to the breaker blocks as I like to do. Do we have any questions? I got some time here. Hi, Mick. It's very awesome to see you stopping by. Hope you're doing well, brother. Just saw your DM. I'll give you a shout right after this. We're almost done. I am doing great. A little bit tired after a tough week of trading. You know how it is. But just pushing through it. Keep grinding. Review. Repeat. All clear. Awesome. All right. Well, I'll wish you guys all a wonderful weekend. Oh, well, two things. All right. How do we access to your indicator? And man, but I've been having zero issues in taking the same trades as you. Last 4 weeks, all in profit. Lovely. I love this, Wolfe. This is why you will make it. Thank you, Mick. I appreciate that. I'm glad to see that, Wolfe. I'm glad to see that. That was the goal with the model. Having something that people can repeat. Definitely. And how do we access your indicator? You have access to it, Wolfe. Just through right statistics. So you'll find it on our WAP. You'll find our claim link. And basically whenever I post new indicators, you just have to go there on WAP and reclaim them. If you have any issues, just shoot me a DM. For sure. For sure. All right, I'm going to call it a night here, guys. Definitely have a great weekend. Take some time off. You guys know me. Yeah, get some sleep is a great way to put it as well. You guys have a great rest of your night, great weekend, and we'll see each other on Sunday for a customary weekly outlook. Bye, guys.